Hello everyone, this is part 18 of What If Naruto Had a Hug That Changed Everything, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Finally, after much more than 2 minutes, Futaba had finally managed to heal Yuhari's ankle to the point where she could at least run on it at normal speed. Once the pink-haired med ceased the flow of chakra, Yuhari felt a huge wave of relief as she was now able to freely move her legs and sighed gratefully. "Thank you, Futaba," the blonde woman said to her exhausted friend. "Don't mention it," Futaba said through slight heaves of air. Unfortunately, the two mothers could not celebrate or relax. After hearing a stomach-turning cry of agony, they both whipped their heads down to the one-sided action below, causing them both to gasp. "Mitarashi-san," they yelled. Back down to the action, Anko slammed face first into the ground, sliding upon it as she did so with the relentless Kuro running after her. In a moment of impulse, Anko managed to catch herself and skid to a halt, but the moment she did so, the fanged beast was right in front of her, starting to pummel her face to no end. That is until launched a swift high kick to her gut, jettisoning into the air, where he then jumped after her. With blinding speed, Kuro appeared above the exasperated Anko with his fist reeled back before slamming her back down to earth, where she crashed with a loud and bone-chilling thud, the recoil flipping her flat on her back. The moment Anko cracked her eyes open, the beast was already plummeting down before his knee crashed on top of her diaphragm. The outclassed Junin let out a scream before being silenced with a savage blow to the chest. Then another, and another. After that display of brutality, Kuro pushed himself off of his enemy, picked her up by her head and stared at her with that smile. The second that a bloody cough escaped her mouth, the sadistic Kerr reeled his arm back and forcefully drove it into her gut so hard that not only did it drive a bulge out of her back, but her entire body and nervous system went into temporary shutdown until the very second she hit the ground, where she struggled on her elbows and knees, finding it totally impossible to draw air in her lungs. Looking down at the fallen snake Junin for only a moment, Kuro knelt down with his elbow reeled over before mercilessly slamming it onto the back of her head, driving her body and face into the dirt, again. The dominant monster rose to his feet and stared at the now twitching Anko with great amusement on his face. He then lifted his foot and placed it upon the back of her head, occasionally applying painful pressure to it. "Anko," he cooed with a mock-caring demeanor, "forgive me for being too hard on you, but you see, I have an example that I need to make as clear as possible. Don't be saddened. Uncle Kuro's not angry, he's just upset. Now come here." With that, the black-hearted savage took a firm hold upon Anko's left calf and lifted her off of the ground, where he stared into her dimmed eyes while she was upside down, helpless. "Why, you monster, you disgust me. You should have crawled back to the hellhole you spawned from, and never came back to this village," Anko said through her nearly intolerable pain. Kuro simply laughed with amusement, "That really hurts, Anko. And after all the things we've been through together, I thought you loved me. That's all right. Everything that you fail to comprehend, everything that all of you fail to comprehend, will soon be made clear to you," he said with a squint to his eyes. After hearing these words, Anko's body once again tensed despite the pain that shot through her. But soon her eyes softened, becoming devoid of all hope and rebellion. Why did you come back? How could you kill all of those innocent people, Kuro? Why?" Anko pleaded. Kuro could easily sense the sudden decrease in aggression and smiled triumphantly, "Ha ha 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 ha. So you've finally accepted your final fate, huh? Well, since you're going to S anyway, I guess I can let you in on a few things." Back down at the Chunin Stadium, Naruto was in shock. He had spent the last 5 minutes with a hand on his cheek and a blush on his face, officially blown away by what he had just been subjected to. To him, the moment that those soft and kissable lips made contact with him for the first time, he felt as though the world around him were but a dream. A dream that he wished he would never wake up from. Sakura Haruno, the girl of his dreams, kissed him intentionally. A part of him wanted to jump through the roof of the stadium, soar into the heavens and personally shake God's hand for the blessing he had bestowed upon him. However, given the memory of how vivid and real his dreams could be, via the B-ranked mission, he kept his cool while inwardly basking in the euphoria, no matter how much of a lie it may have been. Of course, his happiness was temporarily interrupted when he heard the enraged and disapproving roars of the crowd, or more specifically, "Ino. What'd mean you're giving up? What the hell is that, you worthless, good for nothing? I told you, Ino," Shuji interjected while opening what had to be his 20th bag of potato chips. Shikamaru would rather lose on purpose than do this. It's just too much for him, ya know. Ino wasn't satisfied with that load of crap at all. Grr. This is outrageous. Sakura, can you believe this nonsense? She bellowed. She received nothing but silence as a response. Sakura. What are you? She cut herself off when she saw a very infatuated expression on her face. Ino looked back to see Naruto only to notice the same expression. The blonde genin shifted back and forth glances to them before simply letting it go. But she had to admit through all of her angry protests to the travesty she was unfortunate enough to witness, that she was glad that Sakura finally woke up and saw what she still had the chance of receiving. True happiness. Hey, guess my work is finally done, she inwardly bragged. Down at the battle arena, Shikamaru was stretching out all of the irritating kinks in his body. Everything from end to back to arms and to hips. He had to admit, Temari was really good. Smart as a fox too. Wonder if she's any good at shogi, Shikamaru thought as he finished stretching. The lazy nin took to the sky and enjoyed the beautiful sight of the clouds, or at least he would have, but something was oddly menacing about them. Normally Shikamaru would literally slap himself for thinking about the glorious clouds like that, but there was just a feeling that he found rather difficult to shake. Of course, being the lethargic bum that he was, he thought that thinking of such meaningless things was far too troublesome. Hey, the aggressive yet seemingly disappointed Temari called out, what did you give up for? Shikamaru straightened himself out and looked at her with the eye. 'Cause I find this whole thing troublesome in every aspect. I'd much rather go home and sleep on my nice feather plush bed, he said, gaining a frown from the blonde sand genin. TCH. I can't believe I couldn't beat this lazy punk. And play some shogi. Temari's frown instantly flipped to that of surprise and remained silent as she unconsciously stared at him. Shikamaru caught the stare and raised an eyebrow. What? You play shogi? Meanwhile, as Kuro held Anko upside down, her eyes widened for the longest time after hearing all that she had been told. Do you see now, Anko? Can you understand the validity of my doings? I shall not rest, until my conquest is complete, and there is nothing you or anyone else in the world can do to stop me. I will make sure of it. I will solidify my foundation so no one can stop my ambitions, Kuro declared with an evil smile. But why can't? Oh, let me guess. You're about to ask why none of Anbu are on my ass right now. Simple child, the answer is right in front of you, the Fang sadist said while pointing to himself. Did you really think that I would be so stupid as to begin a silent hunting spree without using a genjutsu? Then, it finally hit her, the transparent aura around that sector of the village, the lack of evidence and such. Indeed, the answer was right in front of her. How could I be so careless, she quietly muttered to herself. Indeed. You too know of this jutsu's properties, do you not? As long as I have it activated, my chakra levels are undetectable to the highest extent, just a ghost of unspeakable death I am with it. It is quite the useful little technique. Whatever breaks the boundaries and enter this sector, doesn't get out without my say in the matter, which is why I allowed Haruno and Yamanaka to escape with their lives, Kuro trailed on. Anko flinched with surprise. What? Thought I didn't notice. We've been apart for far too long. I was fully aware that you were basically throwing your life away to buy Haruno the time she needed to heal her little girlfriend. Well, let me assure you that you were successful, though not quite in the way you may have hoped. Havmahahaha. Anko became rather silent throughout her ordeal. She couldn't believe how deep things ran now that Kuro had been revived. This monster had to be stopped. Well, I really must say that I've enjoyed the time we've spent, catching up, but I'm on a bit of a tight schedule. Unless you have any more objections, it's time to perish, the demon cooed menacingly. The look on Anko's face had practically told Kuro that she had surrendered all rebellion. She was done. I failed. There's nothing I can do. I can't stop you, she conceded as she closed her eyes tightly. There's clearly no way I can beat you. Kuro smiled maliciously. Hey. I could have told you that. Enough of this, he began before reeling his fist back and curling his fingers for death shot. It's time to end it. Yes. You've said more than enough, Anko yelled, flipping her eyes wide open. With lightning quick reaction time, the beaten Junin used her free leg to press her foot onto Kuro's metacarpals with all of her might, snapping them in half. Graah, he bellowed before releasing his grip upon Anko's calf. The resourceful Nin forced her aching body to flip over, where she was able to land on her feet. Taking instant action, Anko quickly pulled out 2 kunai attached to metal wiring before chucking them both at Kuro. Before the beast had enough time to react when he readdressed his focus, the blade of death impaled both sides of his cheeks, letting out another gruff roar of pain and fury. With that direct hit, the kunoiki immediately flipped over and behind her would-be executioner, thus skeffily flipping the wires repeatedly to bind him and creating a large gap between them. Wasting no time in the slightest, Anko clasped both wires between her teeth and performed the proper hand seals. Kaiten, Ryuka no Jutsu, she yelled before blasting a searing hot flame that was guided by the wires on direct collision with Kuro's form. When realization finally hit him, Kuro was suddenly infuriated. The broken hand was bad enough, but the kunai in the face just tore it into 1,000 pieces. With one roar of fury, Kuro used his monstrous strength to bust out of the binding the metal wires as though they were harmless strings of yarn, much to Anko's great dismay. He jumped out of the way of the flames as they harmlessly and slowly dissipated. After landing on the ground, Anko stood firm as she tried to catch her breath. TTKKAH. Unfortunately, her body was quickly overwhelmed by a delayed reaction of agony and paralysis to the serious damage she had received only moments ago. She crashed to one knee as her mouth began to seep blood and her breath became shallow and wheezy. Kuso. My body hasn't recovered from that last assault, she fretted between wheezing breaths before cough out another dangerous serving of her blood. With his back turned to his nuisance of an enemy, Kuro started growling angrily as he breathed. You insect, he hissed before slowly turning around to face the still stunned Anko with kunai still lodged in his face. You will pay dearly for that. With that promise, the angered madman took the kunai by the handles and yanked them out without caring a whit about the pain. To Anko's ridiculous surprise, the wounds on his face began to steadily regenerate. Without another word, Kuro slowly marched toward her with a now insatiable intent to kill her. It was at that moment that enough was enough. After a few more moments of staring at her seemingly unstoppable enemy, the surly Junin actually cracked a smile. But it wasn't the sigh, arrogant smile that had given her a somewhat iffy reputation among the majority of her peers. No, this was a content, fearful and nostalgic smile that wasn't really common for her. Anko closed her eyes with that same smile and actually found to fortune to laugh to herself. I can't believe that I have to end it like this, she muttered to herself as Kuro continued on the silent war path. The kunoiki remained on her one knee before slowly bring her hands together to form the Hitsuji, Ram, hand seal, but this is for Konoha, she inwardly declared before beginning a massive oversurge of chakra. Completely unaffected by the sudden and rising jolt of power, Kuro continued his march toward the now roaring Anko, who was heavily concentrated on increasing her levels and pushing them far beyond that of which she had ever done before. In truth, her doing this was killing her body as it wasn't recovering properly. This did not help. Useless B. Do you think you'll stand a chance against me just by raising your power a little? Insolence. Pure insolence, that what it is. Yeah, well I bet I could kick ass, Shikamaru tiredly declared. We'll see about that, pineapple head, Temari retorted before jumping back up to the balcony, where Kankuro was scowling at her. What the hell was that, Temari? Don't tell me that you actually made friends with that. Of course not, but he thinks that just because he can best me on the field, he beat me in shogi. I don't think so, she said with a blush that she was pitiful unsuccessful in hiding. Kankuro looked her over to see if she had any type of hallucinogenic dart on her body. When he saw everything but her mind in the right place, he just sighed. Yeah, yeah. Just don't forget what we're here for. Shikamaru gave a long and loud yawn before looking up in the balcony. For some reason he found mildly troublesome to even take effort to jump back up there, he was just too damn tired. Since the match was long since finished, Genma started looking around as thought searching for something. Still not here yet, he said with his usual blank demeanor. This was a problem. The only reason Genma allowed Shikamaru and Temari to continue their little argument was because he was trying to pass the time until Sasuke arrived. Unfortunately, there was no such luck, as the Uchiha had still not made his appearance. This of course was not favored by the crowd. People were shouting and protesting the disappointment as they were all too aware of what could happen any moment from now. After only a few more minutes, Rado, I finally know his name, appeared again and discreetly told him the bad news. Ganma sighed, I see, ladies and gentlemen, the time limit has expired. Because he has not arrived in time to compete in his match, Sasuke Uchiha is hereby disqualified. Before Genma could even finish his final syllable, several leaves sudden filled the area. At first it was a calm aura, putting a knowing and relieved smile on his face. Then an enormous whirlwind appeared, spiraling the leaves all over the place. Once the wind died down, it revealed what everyone had been waiting for all of this time. Sasuke Uchiha. Garbed in an all-black attire similar to his usual style, Sasuke stood ready and willing to fight, standing back to back with his sensei Kakashi Hatake. Everyone in the area just sat there with these stupefied expression at what they were seeing. Honestly, I don't know what's so special about showing up fashionably late. Hoi, sorry we're late, Kakashi apologized like he usually did whenever he pulled S like this. Genma looked down at the battle-ready genin, name, he said. Quote. Sasuke Uchiha. Within the crowded audience, something was beginning to stir among the Anbu who kept watch in that area. The 8 members quickly snapped their attention to the west side. Something was wrong. Meanwhile, Anko continued her insane efforts of pushing past her limits while Kuro drew ever closer to his prey. The Junin's power had been so fierce that dust and debris vastly blew out all over the area as she continued her roars of sheer effort. Finally, Kuro had closed the distance between his and Anko, looking down at her with angry disgust in his face. Now Kuro, Anko growled as she had at last finished her display. And exactly what that's supposed to accomplish. All you managed to do was blow my hair slightly out of proportion by increasing your power a little. You pathetic wretch, Kuro said. To his infuriation, Anko actually began to laugh weakly before looking up at him with no life in her eyes. Yeah, the Anbu were sure to sense that one, she said. Hearing these words, Kuro nearly busted a vein with sheer and utter shock. What? He bellowed. Anko let her arms down and stayed right where she was. You underestimated me, Kuro. I will know about the genjutsu you activated all too well, and I knew that by increasing my own chakra, I could alert any one of the Anbu in the village, and tell them everything you told me, she said with a lifeless smile. Kuro's anger stared to boil despite the flaw in this plan. You think that you've got it figured out when all I have to do is kill you before they get here, he roared. Anko coughed up another pint of her blood. That's why letting Yuhari and Futaba go was the biggest mistake you've made, she said weakly. What? I gave them one of my comms before I fought you. Everything that you told me, your plans, your ambition, they were all recorded. By now they have informed the authorities of your return, and your sick plans. Even if you kill me, you lose, Anko finished. Kuro was flabbergasted. His rage was now riddled with shock and amazement, along with pure hatred. You tricked me, you rotten, insignificant bee. I'll make pay for your arrogance this day, Anko, Kuro roared with fury, damn it. This isn't how it was supposed to be. With that last declaration, the enraged beast's forearms suddenly began to bleed. This blood soon became thick and lifelike as it solidified into double-jointed, long red blades of death. Seeing this, Anko knew her time was up. Evident how she had increased her levels past her limits, just fighting this monster was enough for her to catch a glimpse of what he was hiding. His true power. She closed her eyes with that same infuriating smile on her face. With a furious roar, Kuro's blades of blood impaled Anko from the front, through her kidneys. The fiery pain that engulfed her at that moment was so intense, that she found it impossible to scream. All she could do was choke and gag as blood poured down her mouth and nose. Intent on finishing the job, Kuro lifted the heavily wounded Junin off of the ground, her feet hanging lifelessly in the air. The new sensation of pain from this action was enough to make Anko weakly cried out before the merciless demon took a firm hold of the side of her face. HMMRR. I could devour right now, Anko, he began with slight anger before he passed it a sinister smile, but thanks to my visit here, I have all that I need to fully restore the burning flames of the dark will within. You are of no value to me anymore. Your body is useless and your will to live on has vanished. You have become, refuse. Farewell, Anko Mitarashi. With those finally words. Kuro's blades outwardly sped from the opposite sides of Anko's body, causing her to lament one final scream of anguish before she began choking on her own fluids, her body going through a fit of random convulsions. With his blades of blood retracted back into his arms and the side of Anko's face still in hand, Kuro lowered his victim slightly before frowning. He then carelessly tossed her limp form behind him, where she remained. Her head tilted to the side and twitching even still. Without even looking back at his handiwork, Kuro vanished from Konoha in a thick grey mist of death. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.